April?
Yes.
We are getting ready to do something entirely different. Have you ever done sheetrock repair, hung sheetrock, taped, mudded, done anything with sheetrock at all? Never ever?
Never ever.
Okay, so typically what happens on a door, I don't know if it's happened here, I'm sure it has. Sometimes you see, boom, a big hole that was caused by a doorknob. Sometimes people cut into it for various reasons. In this case, I don't know why they cut into it. It makes no sense because these holes don't have any rhyme or reason to them. It might be an alarm system, for example, that has been cut out and they took the alarm system with them or got disconnected or whatever. So then you want to patch that hole, and a square hole is still a hole. Not like this. So whoever did this, I'm not blaming anybody. It was weird. It's a weird repair in a lot of different ways, and I'm going to explain why. This is an older house. This house is built in the early 70s, and back then they used, if you can see in here, this is 3/8 sheetrock. 3/8 sheetrock is very, very rare. They still sell it at Home Depot because of houses like this, but what happened here is they didn't know that or didn't care or whatever the case is, so I see this little bump on here, and the reason that bump is there is because this is 1/2 inch sheetrock they tried to patch this with. But and then they used tape on it also. They taped and mudded, but the mud job is just horrifically bad. Like that's not, you can't do nothing with that. In fact, this is going to have to be cut out and done all over again. But we're going to get to this. So rather than patching 2 holes, we're going to make this one big one, and I'm going to show you how to do it with April holding the camera. So you want to level, and you put the level on the extreme point that you want to go, because I have a little FUBU stuff going on here. I'm going to put the level right about there. So my bubble is completely level, and I'm going to mark a line there. And I'm going to go down, and I'm going to drop below where this other hole is at, and just slightly above it as well. Then I'm going to do the same thing over here on this side, and I'm going to go just to the right side of that hole, make sure my bubble is level, which is about right there. And then I'm going to draw another line above and below the other holes. Then I'm going to go here, and if you can tell, turn it around. If you can tell, my bubble should be level right there. And I'm going to mark that with a little dip going on, but I'll forget that. That's why it's easier to go this way if you have this kind of level. And so that's level right there. Now that's extremely large area, which I don't normally like to do, but to patch 2 holes in separate areas takes twice as long, obviously, so it's easier to do in one fell swoop like this. So there's a couple ways you can go about this. And if you don't have a level, honestly, it doesn't even matter. You can have a straight edge. And the straight edge doesn't have to be level, because when you cut the rock, it's going to be the same exact size as this, and you're going to see how that's done in just a moment. Razor knife. Now it doesn't take as much energy to go through this 3/8 as it would if this was 1/2 inch. If it was 1/2 inch, it'd be much more difficult for the razor knife to actually go through. And in this case, it's not that big of a deal. By my second pass, I'm going right through. Or you can get the handy Dremel tool. This thing works wonders if you don't want to use a razor knife. And that's how that's done. April, you want to give it a try?
Sure.
Okay. Trade off on the camera thing. So, whatever's more comfortable for you. I did it upside down because it was easier for me, because I can see it. If you do it this way, it's hard to see. And you can go to your left or your right, it really doesn't matter. Whatever more comfortable, upside down, left or right, whatever. So you're trying to get the blade level with the wall, with the line, and then you're not trying to go all the way in. You're only going in, because this is 3/8 sheetrock, you're only going in this little area here, this little corner. So once you get a start on it, then you just pass it on through. You're gonna hit a stud, and when you hit the stud right around this area, you're gonna have to kind of go lightly there. But you know, let's see how well you're able to do this. That's one way. Okay. That'll work. Okay.
I'm gonna get ahead of myself.
All right, so what you're doing is a plunge cut, what's called a plunge cut. So a plunge cut would be going in like this, and that's not really, you kind of want to go at an angle.
Yeah, you didn't want me to do that.
Yeah, let me show you. So it's just as easy for me to use a razor knife as it is a Dremel. And when it's sticking on here, it's because there's probably a couple nails right in the center. But we're trying to get it out in one piece, and I will show you why as soon as I get it out, hopefully in one piece. And voila, and these are the nails I was telling you about. This is the reason it wouldn't come out. But you kind of want to be careful with it, because we're going to make a template of this same cutout that we already did. And then we're going to get rid of the nails too. So now that you have your piece cut out, all you're simply going to do is line this up to the straightest edge you can on your piece of sheetrock. And that's pretty close. I can feel the top and the side, and then all you do is draw a line with the remainder two edges. And as simple as that. So again, I can use my Dremel to cut this out, or I can use a razor knife, and because this is so thin of a sheetrock, I'm just going to use my razor knife. And I'm not going to have April cut this, because it takes a little wrist power to make this happen with a razor knife. Of course, the other way, if you don't want to do a template like I'm doing here, the other way is just, you know, simply take a tape measure and measure out your height and your width of your piece. And for some of you, that's the easiest way, but there's an exact replication of what we took out. And now we just put it back in. So the piece is actually cut exactly the size that it's needed on the wall, and it fits in there like a glove because we cut it that way. But April, we need to shim, we need to put some support in there. Okay. So the supports, where's my saw at? Or the pieces of wood. Oh, here it is. So the pieces of wood, here, hold this. Oh, you want to cut this?
No.
Okay. So the pieces of wood, you want to go beyond what the hole is right there. About 3 or 4 inches or so. So I'm going to cut it right about 21 inches and 21 inches on this side, and that's going to give it this cross support. You could do smaller ones up here, but it doesn't really matter. These are 4 of them, and these are 2, so it's easier to do 2. If you put it up against there, it's going to have a tendency of cocking in or out, just like you showed, April just showed you. So you need these at 21. And I'm going to show April one time, because she needs to learn how to do this herself. These are 1 1/4 sheetrock screws. Because this sheetrock is so thin, you don't really have to use these. You could use inch sheetrock screws, but I use 1 1/4 by default. So this is about where I want to split the difference at, so you have an equal amount of room on the top and the bottom. So you can mark it if you want to. I kind of put my finger there so I already know where to go with that, and that's where I want to go. Then you offset the wood, so it's going to be half on this side and half on the other side. And then you just screw into the top, and you countersink your screw. And it's easy as that. And then same as the bottom. So what I'm going to do, you don't have to do this. The 2 is good enough, but you have enough room to put another one down here and another one up there if you want. Because I already know my board is long enough to do that. All of them are countersunk. You don't want to go too much because then you'll strip out the screw or the end of the sheetrock. Then when you put your board on there, you have support both on left, right, and middle. And if there was no middle here, you don't need one, but in that case you would do one on the side, bottom and top. Because we have this middle support, we don't have to do that. So, April, see how you can handle You learned how to use a drill last time, right?
I know.
So do you want to mark this, or you want to try and do it the way I did it?
The way you did it?
The way I did it? Just going to hold it with your hand?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so just put a screw on the end of that drill so you have it ready. It should be magnetic.
What you did was you just slid it on in here.
Alright. Sometimes it's easier to mark it, so put it on the outside. Where's that pencil at? It's been down by your foot.
Oh, I see what you do.
Okay, there you go, perfect.
And so you're marking where?
You're marking the equal distance between top and bottom. Exactly. So you know exactly where your mark is at, so that when you actually put the board inside of the wall, you can stop at the mark and put your screw.
I see what.
Exactly. And then you have to hold it. That's why it takes 2 hands. There you go. And then make sure that board is lined up straight. There you go. Just give yourself an equal amount of room. It's not easy to do by yourself. There you go. Perfect. And then you're going to do top and bottom, just like I showed you. Right, you can go a little more. Just hold the boards still. There you go. There you go. I'll finish that up. So just go ahead and do 1. I think that'll suffice for now. Instead of doing 2.
Okay.
Right. You got to pull the board. There you go. Close enough. Yeah. So those aren't countersunk. I'm going to go ahead and countersink those. But you kind of get the idea. I mean, you get the general idea here.
You need a little push to push it.
You need some yes. Yes, you do. The board is set in there, and if you're like me, you want to make your mark so you don't forget where your center stud is at. That's all there is to it. That's the patch. So after the patch is done, we're gonna tape and mud. Once you tape and mud, you let that dry, and then you put on the sheetrock mud, feather it out nicely, unlike that patch, and then it's basically done. And then of course you paint at that point too. Once you sand it off and everything. It's an easy process. It's a 3-step process. This is the first one, taping the mud is the second one, and then applying your second and final coat of mud with, if you need to, sand it off a little, is the 3rd step. So it's really, really easy. So 2 holes got done. If I wasn't teaching you and showing you how to do this, it would have been done in 5 minutes. So 2 holes got patched in 5 minutes, and we have we have a lot of holes in here. So maybe on the next time we'll see how you do on doing it yourself. Since you don't have to go and make holes at your own place, you can use this place as a practice.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's really good knowledge to know.
Okay, so go get the tape and mud, and we're gonna see if you know what you're talking. The tape and the mud and the blades. I have 3 different size blades, and for 3 different reasons I have those.
I can't think straight. I can't think straight. Okay.
Tape and the mud. Well, I don't have the tape here, that's unfair. But the blades are definitely there, right? So you got 3 blades, you got the mud. That's not mud, that's caulking. That's okay, you're learning, that's okay. One of those buckets, that's the mud. So sometimes it's called sheetrock mud, I call it just mud. Sometimes it's called all-purpose joint compound, which it says on the label, and you're just gonna grab one of those and go back in there, and I will get the tape. This is easy process that people overcomplicate because they try and, I don't know, they try and do overkill. And I do admit when I first started doing this, I would apply too much mud also. But the taping process is as easy as this. You're gonna apply a pretty liberal amount of mud on all 4 areas. Then you get your tape. Some people use, this is paper tape, and paper tape is what I use by default, and it has a little bend in it, a natural bend that folds in half like that. So you want that bend to go, excuse me, you want that bend to go into the crease. Where it bends at, that portion goes into the crease that you've already created. And so if you can't see it, that means you probably have too much mud on there like I do. And so you just follow where your crease is at, and then you do your length. So I'm going to go about, you overshoot a little bit and then just rip it off. And remember your crease is going to go embed inside of this crack. So you get a little excess off from the top. Right there for now. And then push down really hard because that gets the excess mud off that you put on there. And then the same thing for the left and top and bottom. As I said already, some people try and do overkill on the first pass. When you're putting the tape on, there's a reason you're putting tape there, whether it's the mesh tape, the fiberglass mesh tape, some people prefer, I don't. It's a crack prevention thing. So anytime you're putting tape, and tape is on ceilings and corners and patches and all that stuff, is to prevent cracking, because if you don't use the tape and buildings and sheetrock and 2x4s move and expand and contract, you'll end up with a crack all the way down where you put your mud at. That's the reason you have to put the tape in, and you're embedding the tape into the wall as much as you can. You let this dry, you don't touch it. Most people, as I said, try to do overkill. They want to go ahead and throw a bunch of mud on there at this point, and what happens is it makes the tape really wet, and it's not good for the final patch. And it just screws up the whole thing, and then you end up sanding off a lot of excess mud, and you have to come back and feather your mud again, and then you sand off more, and it creates a lot more work for you than it does help. So what I do by default is I let this dry overnight, or if I'm in a hurry, I'll put a fan on it. And then once you do that, you can actually put your mud on there, feather it out almost perfect, and never really have to go back to it again. As I said, 3-step process. So it's easy as that. Let's go revisit the sheetrock patch and see how that's doing. I've had a fan on it for the last 30 or 40 minutes. So we might be able to go ahead and do the taping. I'm sorry, on the mudding out, the feathering as it were, of this patch. This is completely dry now. And I know you said you didn't do anything with sheetrock before or mudding or anything like that, but I'm gonna see how well you can do not knowing anything. What I want you to do, April, I want you to go in there as if you kind of knew what you were doing and just kind of, here I'm gonna put some blades. There's a 6-inch blade. I'm gonna put a 9-inch blade. You have this one, the small one, and so we're gonna see what you know rather than me teaching you on how to do the feathering and see how it goes, because any of this can be fixed while it's still wet. And so if we have to, you know, fix what you did, then so be it.
Mm-hmm. How do I look so far?
How do you look? You look fine.
No, how does it look?
Oh, the work. Well, I'm trying to figure out what you're doing, and
I thought this is what I was doing.
no. But go ahead, because I want to get a feel on what you know. That's why I laid the tools out in front of you and did what I did, because I want to see what you know rather than trying to teach you right away. You know,
Okay,
see what you know about it.
Smooth this out. So what did you want me to show you? Because like you put this up here, I thought you wanted me to go over this.
Right.
But I'm just gonna smooth this on out since I already did it. Look at this stuff here. Okay. Now.
Okay. All right, so April, I'm going to now show you what it is that you're kind of doing wrong, and of course you didn't know that. The 9-inch blade works well for something like this, but I prefer the larger one if you want to go pick that up. That's a 12-inch, and this is my favorite. So the whole idea of this, as I said, this is a 3-step process, and we already went through a couple of steps. The whole idea behind this is getting a bunch of mud on here to start with, which this mud has little boogers in it because it's old, but I'm going to work with it anyway. So, in fact, go get that other bucket that's, you know, we got a secondary bucket. Yeah. See if I can get some better mud on here. And then, yeah, open that. And then take some of it out of here. Ooh, this is all boogered up too. Okay, well anyway, so let me go ahead and show you what I'm trying to accomplish. So, you're covering up everything that you patched. All the tape, all the sheetrock, everything. And the idea is when you get done, you're only doing a light sanding. You don't have to go over it again and again and again and again, which again, I see some people do that aren't familiar with patching sheetrock. So you want to get on the first pass, you want to get it as smooth as possible. At the same time, hiding all the tape. So if you notice going over the passes that you still see a little bit of tape, you're okay, as long as all that's smooth. The same at the top. You want to smooth it out. So right now, it looks like, you know, like it's finished. Of course, tomorrow when it dries completely, we'll take some sandpaper and do a very light sanding, and then that's it. It's finished. We're not chasing sand, as you know, as I like to call it. Chasing sand is when you have too much of sanding going on and it doesn't work.